What's up, guys? Welcome back. Coming to the rescue of Jessica Buchanan. We're doing the second video related to this story because on the heels of the last video that we did, that was about SEAL Team 6, and we got to get a better feel of the background behind the operation itself. You guys jumped in the comments and said it wasn't the best video that represented this story.
Yeah.
And this one here from 60 Minutes did a better job at that. So that's why we're doing part 2 of Jessica Buchanan.
And from what I understand, I think this is one that is hearing a little bit more from her directly.
Yeah, it's her telling the story.
I think that'll probably be a little bit more impactful too.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's check out the story from Jessica herself.
Tonight, for the first time, we have the story of the rescue of Jessica Buchanan. It is the tale of a secret mission by SEAL Team 6 that few people have heard about until now. On a January night in 2012, members of SEAL Team 6 jumped from a plane into the skies of Somalia. Jessica Buchanan was being held hostage, and the SEALs were descending just in time. Buchanan was a humanitarian aid worker who had come to help children in one of the most dangerous places on earth. Hers was an ordeal that ended in a flash of violence, but had begun 93 days earlier when her car was stopped by bandits in a place she calls hell.
3 months.
The story will continue in a moment.
No, we're going right now.
We stopped very abruptly, like so abruptly that I felt like everybody just fall forward. And then I start hearing all of this pounding on the windows and the windshield and all this shouting in Somali. And there's a man standing there screaming, and he has an AK-47 and he's shouting and he's pointing it at us. And then he climbs into the car next to me and he points an AK in my face. And they're hyped up like they're on speed. And all of a sudden we just take off. The driver just takes off and we just start slamming all over the place down these camel tracks.
What did you think they were going to do?
I figured they were going to rape me and then kill me.
Terrified.
And I just keep thinking, this can't be the end. This can't be the end of my life. I'm only 32 years old. I haven't had any children yet. I didn't get to say goodbye to Eric. I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad. Like, this can't be the end.
Jessica Buchanan was facing the end at the end of the earth. Somalia, on the farthest tip of Africa, is war-torn and lawless.
This is essentially no man's land.
Militias battle over an unforgiving land, as we saw while covering a famine there in 2011. It was the same year that Buchanan was with a Danish charity teaching children how to avoid landmines. On October 25th, her car was hijacked.
The driver is driving like just a madman.
While teaching kids how to avoid landmines, you get hijacked by Somali pirates. It's just such a crazy thing to say out loud.
I know.
You know, the fact that kids have to dodge landmines.
I know.
And then you got to be worried while trying to teach these kids that you might get hijacked.
It's also just so sad because you go to help and try to, volunteer and do something good and have an impact, and you end up in a situation like that.
Yeah, and you can tell just like from her own words how terrified she was.
Yeah.
You know, like she said that she was worried about them, having their way with her and then,
Killing her.
that's it. Done.
Yeah.
Hijacked.
The driver is driving like just a madman. We're bouncing all over the place. My head keeps hitting the window. It keeps hitting the roof. I'm holding on to the side, the handle on the Land Cruiser, just trying to keep myself steady.
What happened next?
It gets dark and we've changed vehicles a couple of times. More people have come, they're screaming. And I hear from behind me a higher pitched voice going on in Somali, and I think, my God, they have a woman involved in this. And I turn around and I see a small child in the back of the Land Cruiser with an AK-47, draped in ammunition. And I think the irony
That's crazy.
of why I came to Africa in the first place.
Exactly the kid you were trying to save, a child soldier.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Learning the trade.
What a world that we live in.
She'd been kidnapped along with a co-worker, Paul Fisted. They drove into the night and then were ordered to march into the desert.
And they tell us to get down onto our knees. And I think, okay,
This is it.
this is it. Like, I'm bracing myself to be shot in the back of the head. And I think that there's mercy in the fact that maybe they're not going to rape me first, but that it's just going to be quick. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden somebody shouts from behind us, "Sleep." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't hear that correctly, did I? He just said sleep.
She collapsed, slept through the night, and the next morning was met by the man who led the bandits.
And we ask him, "Are you going to kill us? Is that why we're here?" And he says, "No, no, no, no. Money. We just want money."
How much were they asking for?
They started out at $45 million.
They thought you were pretty...
It must have been such a relief to hear, you know, you don't know why you're taken. And she's thinking, obviously, it's the worst possible scenario, you know, and then in that instance was thinking it's all over. This is going to be the end of it. And then you hear, no, we want money. Then all of a sudden you realize that you have value to them. Right. And you're like, okay, you know, I can hopefully find a way out of this situation. But up to that point, all hope had seemingly been lost by her in her perspective. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think obviously when you're in that situation, it's so terrifying that like you're not going to think about things the most rationally. But in my mind, as like a third party, looking at it objectively, like to just hijack somebody's car to like take them off to the middle of nowhere and kill them for no reason doesn't really seem like there's any like benefit in that for these people. Like, yeah, but it's obviously like one thing if they were gonna rape her and then kill her, obviously they're getting something from that. But to just like take somebody from their car, take the effort to switch them through all these vehicles, take them out to the middle of nowhere and just shoot them, like to me, like I feel like the logical explanation would be that they're gonna try to extort somebody for your life.
Of course, that's what, like you said, we would logically assume, but at the same time, there's a lot of variables, such as we heard that she was trying to mitigate the process of kids maybe falling into the trap of getting into the situation where she's now in, a part of pirates and stuff. So maybe the pirates are looking at it as, oh, she's trying to ruin our way of life, so yeah, maybe let's, you know, off them. Another thing could be that she said and mentioned, you know, there was drug use going on. They all seemed high as a kite. Mm-hmm. So when you're high as a kite, you don't really think about things normally. So they could have just been like, screw it, let's jack this car and, you know, take this woman and we'll kill her when we're done with her. And that's the fun for the night, right? She doesn't know any of these things, like you said, at the time. So she's not processing it. But, you know, now she's gotten to the point, like I said, okay, or we have some value here. They want money. And you know, now your perspective starts to shift. Okay, how can I get money, or who can I call, or who can I talk to, right? And I guess we're going to find out the rest.
$45 million was the asking price.
I guess so.
The bandits used her cell phone to call.
Just rewind it here.
I just want money.
How much were they asking for?
They started out at $45 million.
They thought you were pretty valuable.
I guess so.
The bandits used her cell phone to call her husband, Eric Landemam. The two had married on an African beach 2 years before. But his number and the numbers of Buchanan's family had all been disconnected. It was part of the charity's emergency plan. The one number that worked was her Nairobi office with a hostage negotiator standing by. And so began months of talks.
Where did they keep you? Day in, day out?
Under trees.
Under trees.
And outside.
You were outdoors for 93 days?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in the night, they forced us to sleep out in the open.
What were the nights like?
Long and cold. Then the rainy season hit, and it would rain all night long, and you're already freezing, so then you're sitting there wet.
What were you eating?
Tuna fish, maybe once a day. We would get a small can of tuna fish and a piece of bread.
Did you feel like you were beginning to lose your humanity at any point?
Yeah, I mean, they treated us like animals. To be so sick that, you know, you're vomiting behind bushes and you can't walk straight, and you're laying in the fetal position on the ground under a tree, and they don't care. Their duty was to keep me from dying, because then I wasn't worth anything.
They were in the hands of men and boys who were chewing khat. It's a plant with the same effect as amphetamines.
They were so hyped up on speed. It was like drinking pot after pot of coffee, and then the crash would come, and then it brought a lot of belligerence and a lot of anger and a lot of temper.
You and Paul came up with nicknames for a lot of the people who were keeping you. That's one of the ways you kept yourself occupied.
We did.
The 10-year-old boy?
Crack baby, because he was cracked out all the time. He was chewing khat, and he had 2 black holes for eyes.
That's crazy.
There was nothing inside.
This is one of the camps where she was held. The bandits hit her, pointed their guns at her, and put a knife to her throat. But it was exposure that took a toll. She lost 25 pounds. After 3 weeks, the bandits made a video to prove that she was alive.
Have you seen the video?
I have.
Paul and myself, Jessica, we are safe and we are alive.
I can tell I'm starting to lose hope at that point.
But hope would have to last for 2 more months.
As the many weeks...
That's crazy, because they said 2 more months after this, and at this point she already looks like a zombie.
Yeah.
In this video, like the bags underneath her eyes.
Well,
can
you're
tell
not
she's
sleeping.
sick.
You're barely eating. Like,
Well, you stress as well through the roof, right? You're probably on guard constantly. You don't feel like you can relax, which then you can't sleep like you would normally. And you know, the nutritional value, if she's throwing up everything, she's just getting a can of tuna every single day. Like, you know, she was a legit prisoner, but it was like worse than being in jail.
Yeah.
You know, worse than being in prison. I think she summed it up well when she said essentially she's an animal. It's like,
yeah,
maybe even less than an animal at the zoo or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's
because she's not even being fed or anything.
no, she's just barely surviving already at 1 month in.
Yeah.
Right.
Went by. Did you think the American government's watching me, they know where I am, and somebody's going to get me out of here?
No.
Why?
Because I'm just an aid worker.
You didn't imagine that the President of the United States knew your name?
Never. Never in a million years.
After 3 months in the desert, Buchanan had a serious urinary tract infection. And in a final call to the hostage negotiator, she said this.
I'd become so ill that I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. So I was in so much pain. And I said, I think I have a kidney infection. And I started to cry, and I said, I'm afraid I'm going to die out here.
When that call was received here in Nairobi, it set off a chain of events that led all the way to the Oval Office. The FBI and the military consulted doctors who said that if Jessica had a kidney infection, she might have just 2 weeks to live. That was transmitted to the president, who was also informed that in just a few days, there would be a new moon. Perfect darkness for a SEAL team rescue.
Jessica Buchanan had chosen a star in the Somali sky to represent her mother, who had passed away a year before. She spoke to it every night, and with no moon, it was especially bright on January 25th.
What did you say that night?
Please tell God that I need some help. We need to get out of here.
You couldn't have known that that prayer would be answered that night.
I had no idea.
She was on a mat trying to sleep when she heard a faint scratching noise. One of the bandits she nicknamed Helper heard it too.
And I see this look of just sheer terror. on Helper's face. And then all of a sudden, it's just this eruption of gunfire. And I think, okay, well, this is it. This really is truly the end. And I cover up with my...
Yeah, because if I heard the gunfire, I would just have assumed that it was like another Somali pirate
group coming to battle them or something.
That were, gonna come.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it was the Navy SEALs, that's for sure.
Yeah, and, I would be thinking, well, if these other pirates come in, then I'm definitely screwed, and I'm going to have what I originally thought was going to happen with these pirates. It's going to happen to me. So I would no way, shape, or form be thinking the Navy SEALs.
That it was like a rescue mission.
SEAL Team 6 has arrived.
Yeah.
It's not what I've been thinking, but thank God that's what it was.
Yeah.
This really is truly the end. And I cover up with my blanket again, and I just start saying, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I just remember thinking, or maybe I'm saying out loud, like, I cannot survive this.
She thought she was being taken by a rival group, maybe Al-Shabaab, Islamic extremists who would surely kill her.
And then all of a sudden, I feel all these hands on me, roughly grabbing at me. And I try to protect myself, and I pull the blanket closer on top of me, and then I hear my name. But it's not a Somali accent, it's an American accent. And I can't compute, I can't understand that somebody with an American accent knows my name. And they say, Jessica, we're with the American military.
Let's go.
We're here to take you home, and you're safe. And I pull the blanket down from my face, and all I see is black masks, black sky, and all I can say over and over is, you're American. You're American. I don't understand. You're Americans.
But I didn't believe it.
Thinking, how did you get here?
From the sky.
And I'm still alive. And they ask me where my shoes are, and I don't know. And one of them picks me up and starts running. He runs for several minutes and puts me down on the ground. And then they identify themselves, and that they knew I was very sick. And they have medicine, and they have water, they have food, and they've come to take me home. At one point, I think they thought they heard something, or I don't know, this group of men who's risked their life for me already asks me to lie down on the ground because they're concerned that there might be someone out there, and then they make a circle around me, and then they lie down on top of me to protect me.
Human shield.
And we lay like that until the helicopters come in.
When all of those SEALs laid down on top of you, you were the most important thing in the world to them.
It's really hard to comprehend.
They were going to take a bullet for you.
Mm-hmm. And they're so kind, and they're so gentle, and they are trying to assist me to get to the helicopter. But I think I've been out here for months. I can run to this helicopter myself, and so I just break away, and I just take off running through the scrub, through the bush, and I throw myself onto that helicopter and push myself up against the wall. And I don't start breathing until we actually lift up off the ground. And they hand me an American flag that's folded.
What did you think of that?
I just started to cry. At that point in time, I have never in my life been so proud and so very happy to be an American.
The SEALs left on other helicopters. She didn't see their faces, didn't hear their names. They appeared, and they were gone.
That's wild.
Wow.
The only thing left in the camp were 9 dead bandits.
Mr. Speaker!
It all ended just hours before the State of the Union address. As the president walked in, he had a secret with Defense Secretary Leon Panetta that almost no one understood until later.
Good job tonight. Good job tonight.
After the speech, President Obama called Buchanan's father. Jessica met her husband, Eric, at a U.S. base in Italy.
I just couldn't believe he was standing there and that I was standing there. And we had a second chance. And then later we flew to Portland, Oregon, and I was reunited with my father and my brother and my sister and her husband.
What was the first thing you said to your father?
Daddy. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. But we made it.
So did her Danish co-worker, Paul Fisted, who was also rescued by the SEALs. He said later that his lucky break was being captured with an American. Jessica Buchanan has told her story in a new book, Impossible Odds, coming out this week. You may recall that she said that her first thought when being taken was that she was too young to die because she hadn't had children. Well, she's taken care of that too. She and her husband have a baby boy, and they've moved back to the States from East Africa.
Yeah, I would never be going back to Africa after that if I was her.
Yeah, I
No
mean,
way.
there's certain parts obviously that are worse than others, but it's definitely.
But I mean, after going through that, I would be so traumatized. I'd be like, not even risking it.
Well, I mean, after going through that, at the same time, it's like you've been through it all, so it can't get any worse.
Yeah, I would just imagine you'd have pretty bad PTSD after going through that.
Yeah, but it's going to be with you for the rest of your life, regardless of where you are, right? You're gonna, like, you can even see as she was talking about that in certain parts of it when she was talking about it, you know, just hearing the American accent and, you know, how difficult it was even processing those memories when she was telling that story there, right? So incredible as well that, you know, you go so long without having food and medicine and water and safety, and these guys show up, and within an hour that all changes.
Yeah,
your whole
crazy
life just changes immediately. You were struggling for so long, and then as we said, your cortisol has been through the roof for 3 months, and all of a sudden you can finally relax a little bit. And it was just interesting as well hearing her at the end. Automatically, I can't say I've ever been in her position, but it's so interesting how we automatically think about how it was our fault to some degree.
Like how
when
she
something
apologized
happens.
to her dad.
To her dad. Like, clearly she didn't do anything wrong, but, she felt bad that her father and
had
her
the stress
husband, everybody that loves her had to go through, worrying about her. And then I imagine it's probably because she felt like it was her fault from her getting herself in that position that now everybody else is suffering because of that. But, it's obviously nothing to do with her decision making.
No.
But just found that interesting how that you feel guilty when something traumatic like that happens. But
and it's just sad that there has to be even a risk at all that has to happen, right? Like we said, she had good intentions to try to go help, and this is how you get repaid. It's just very unfortunate.
And those Navy SEALs, I mean, they
came and saved the day.
Incredible human beings. I mean, the stuff that they're able to do, the stuff that they we heard there, risking their own lives, obviously in many respects, but in that instance, protecting her from fire.
Also too, right, they saved the other hostage, which had nothing to do with them, right? Like nothing to do. He wasn't an American citizen, but they still did that because they knew that it was obviously an injustice to a human being.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, just even themselves, though, the actions that they take, right, are selfless, right?
Like putting their life on the line for somebody who's not even an American citizen.
Yeah. But just in general, the duty of protecting a human being with your own body, you're risking your own life for theirs, right? That goes above and beyond duty. Your duty is to rescue somebody.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that necessarily you're going to shield them with your own body, right? Somebody else could take a different approach. But I think that's what we overlook oftentimes with Navy SEALs, but soldiers in general, is that they put themselves on the line for other people's benefits.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of the times we see vets that are not taken care of properly. So, you know, this is just a prime example of how valuable these people are as human beings.
Yep.
They have the skill set that Jessica absolutely was counting on. They came through, saved the day, and so they're the real heroes. You know, and you know, we see the president, Barack Obama, at the end. He gets all the credit, right? Yeah. You know, he didn't do anything really. I mean, sort of say,
other than make the decision that it was okay to go ahead with.
Yeah, but you know, nobody's going to know who. They can't know who they are, the Navy SEALs that are involved, because they have to stay anonymous for reasons, right? But they're the real heroes, and they go unnamed. Nobody's going to know that, you know, these guys were the ones that saved her life.
Yep, but like you said, without them, that there'd probably be a lot of people that weren't protected. So
valuable human beings is what they are. Well, thank you for that recommendation, guys. It was good to hear Jessica talk about it in her own words, as you were saying. Definitely held more weight and
yeah, I think we also got a little bit more details than we did. Like, there were details in this, I feel like, that weren't in the last one.
Anything in particular that stuck out to you?
I think she just really like went into more detail about what she actually went through, like the conditions and what she experienced. Like, they talked about it in the last one, but I feel like it was more of just an overview or like factual, like listing off the facts. Whereas this was like actually hearing her describe it. Just, I feel like brought the visual and showing pictures and stuff, brought it to life a lot more.
Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment, give us insights, anything else that you want us to check out. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, come back tomorrow. Have a great day. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you then.